President Obama walking a tense diplomatic tightrope in China, watching his influence over Russia grow weaker by the second. Sanctioned by the West, President Vladimir Putin going in search of a new dance partner and finding one in China's Xi Jinping. The two countries getting cozy with a massive gas supply deal, strengthening the foundation for a powerful new alliance. And despite reports of a brief meeting, apparently not a lot of love lost between President Obama and Putin. Here to discuss all of it, James Toronto of the Wall Street Journal, Jack Howe, senior editor at Barron's, and James Frischling of New Oak. I'll let you go first since you're new to the panel today. What did you think of all this? They supposedly had a small conversation on the sidelines. 15 to 20 minutes, one of the representatives said. I can only imagine what went on there between Putin and Obama.
Yeah, that sounds like a long time, at least for Mr. Obama. Obviously, what's happening here is that both Russia and China, and especially Russia, are taking advantage of the perception of American weakness and retrenchment to strengthen their own positions globally. There was some bad theater for our president as well. This business about the gum chewing is just kind of hilarious. He got out of his limo chewing what is assumed to be nicotine gum. And people in China, where if you've ever been to Beijing, people spit all over the place. I mean, it's not the most hygienic place in the world, but nonetheless, people were
But they don't chew gum.
Right.
They don't chew gum.
Terribly offended by this. One blogger wrote, he must have been nervous. If Kim Jong-un were here, there would be no gum chewing.
Oh, my goodness. I think we have some video of it. You know, they sat very far from each other, Jack. The body language was everywhere. Yeah. You know, he's not getting a lot of respect on the world stage.
Russia's on a bizarre path. I mean, speaking of Kim Jong-un, he seems to be borrowing from North Korea's playbook. Paranoid statements about the West, crackdown on dissent at home, and absolutely nothing to get the economy rolling. His bad governance was masked before by a high oil price. No longer. I think Russia's in deep trouble.
Well, at the same time, James, you know, China's out there showing off a new fighter jet. It is the J-31 stealth aircraft. It seems to be like the F-35, although nothing was supposed to be like our F-35. Is this worrisome?
Well, I mean, it's definitely going to be attractive to folks that are on the cannot buy list from U.S. Arms and whatnot. You know, since the financial crisis, kind of the European zone, the Atlantic has become somewhat secondary to the Pacific. So it's actually not a surprise to me that Russia is courting China, and to a certain extent, we might want to try to do a better job there as well, because that is a very important alliance that's forming, almost as a kind of a threat to I guess a challenge to NATO.
Okay,
the profit margins on those planes are a lot higher when you're the only one selling them.
Right. That's a good point. Apple getting all up in one rival's business, planning to invade Microsoft's turf by conquering the corporate world. Jack, what do you think? They have a shot here?
I guess, you know, if they can follow the model that they've done with the iPhone, which is and the Mac, which is basically you give away the software, you get people hooked on the ecosystem, and you make money on the hardware, sure. And think about what this means for IT departments. I mean, right now, they make their money on everything being so complicated, the marriage of hardware and software. If that goes away, that spells smaller IT departments.
But you have seen IT departments in big companies all across the world all of a sudden start giving out iPhones or dealing with iPhones. They put them in the ecosystem. Not too long ago, that was unheard of.
Well, a lot of it, I think, is because of the decline of BlackBerry.
Yeah.
You know, in my own company, I recently lost my BlackBerry, or it died, and I had to select.
It died, and they hadn't made another one in 5 years, so you had to get something else.
Right, I had to select between an iPhone and a Samsung. I took the Samsung, by the way, because it seemed to be more capable. And I wonder if Apple is a good match for the corporate market in this sense. Apple's strength has always been the aesthetic, the experience. It's beautifully designed. It's, you know, it's like a religious experience for people. Corporate customers, for the most part, are looking for efficiency and cost effectiveness, and I wonder how Apple makes that.
Tim Cook might have to start wearing a tie if he wants to sell businesses.
That'll never happen. Women in the U.S. more pessimistic about the job market than their male counterparts. A new poll from Gallup finds that 64% of women think it's a bad time to look for work. This is compared to 56% of men. That differential more than any other developed country in the developed nation except Germany. I finally got that out. What do you think about that, James?
Yeah, I thought about the 8-point gap here in the States, specifically the U.S., the 11-point gap you mentioned in Germany, and then I was looking at a different study that said of entrepreneurs, of women-owned firms, 60-something% positive on the outlook versus men at 50%. So one of my takeaways is that maybe the women being surveyed don't want to work for, I hate to say it, the man, but if they own their own business, they have a much more positive outlook than male-owned small companies.
I think it's really interesting. You know, it was a random random survey. It was done by Gallup, but we know in this last recession they called it the man session because there were so many more men that were out of work than women. So it's interesting now that it's flipped, and women say they're the ones that are having the hard time thinking that there's another job out there for them, Jack.
I would love to explain this to you, but I don't understand anything having to do with women. Stock market, I can talk about it all day. Women, I'm sorry.
Okay, you want to take a shot at it?
Well, first of all, generally speaking, women are more risk averse than men. So as a general rule, you would expect women to be more hesitant about looking for new jobs. And the entrepreneur statistics are interesting, but that may reflect a selection bias, that women who are particularly risk-seeking become entrepreneurs more so than men. The other thing is there's a long-term trend of a gradual decline in male labor market participation and a large increase and now a plateau in female labor market participation. And a lot of that is because of dramatic social change that started in the 60s as a result of which...
But maybe they're saturated now.
Right, but also women have to work much more than they did a few decades ago, and that may contribute to this.
He knows a lot about
Wall Street. Apparently, Wall Street selling Alibaba today on the back of some huge sales. The e-commerce giant cashing in on loneliness, making more than $9 billion on Singles Day. $2 billion of that coming in the first hour. So they made $2 billion in an hour. Just for perspective, I mean, there are other companies it takes them an entire quarter to make what Alibaba made in 2 hours. For example, Mattel, Ralph Lauren, Hershey of all places, takes them a whole quarter to make $2 billion. Expedia, JetBlue, Netflix. Jack, this is an astounding number.
They call this the anti-Valentine's Day.
Yes.
That's absolute nonsense. It's for singles. Singles are looking to meet other singles in a country where there's, more men seeking fewer women. I mean, you got to spend it, try to impress.
The gimmick started out as a singles thing, but they've created the largest online shopping day, blows away Cyber Monday.
Right. Black Friday.
Blows away Black Friday. And again, 47.5% of these sales done on mobile devices, which I thought was an interesting takeaway.
And this is in mainland China, right? I thought they were supposed to be communists.
Yeah, no, they're consumers is what they are, it turns out. All right, so if you've got $4.5 million and a product to sell, NBC needs you. The network admitting it still hasn't sold all of its Super Bowl commercial space. I'm no expert, could have something to do with that record price tag for a 30-second spot. Jack, what do you think about this one? I mean, I think some of these companies are maybe waking up to the fact that it's a lot of money for not a lot.
It's really hard to figure out what you get for this because keep in mind, you get more than the commercial. You get the news reports with people talking about who's advertising and so on and so forth. But I think people are doing the math and maybe saying, look, this higher price tag.
$4.5 million for 30 seconds.
I mean, look, there's been a general softness in television advertising, and the Super Bowl is a unique place, but again, they raised their price by 12.5%. They'll still sell out, but certain companies, I wonder, are backing away because maybe some of the image issues that the NFL is
Well, do you think that's,
raising.
I mean, that's a great point. Do you think that's part of it? Does it have anything to do with all the trouble
James, you
that
understand
the NFL
women
has
very
had?
well. What do you got?
Maybe. I wonder if the crucial numbers here might not be 43 and 8. That was the score of this year's Super Bowl.
Okay.
We've had a succession of very close and exciting
Snow
Super
Bowl.
Bowls.
Everybody was so excited about the Snow Bowl.
Right, but it turned out to be a blowout, like a Super Bowl from the 80s, which the Denver Broncos lost one or two of those.
But it was the most watched event in TV history. I mean, it had 111.5 million viewers.
But I wonder if you looked at which spots they've sold, and I haven't taken a look. I wonder if it would turn out that the ones that they're having trouble selling are toward the end of the game,
probably,
where they may anticipate some tuning out if there's another blowout.
Maybe. I mean, a lot of the old sponsors have dropped out. They've gotten a few new people. Jack, what do you think? Worth it? Not worth it?
Well, I'm not in the market.
You don't have $4.5 million ready to go?
I mean, I think they will.
I thought we were going to do a commercial here and put it on during the Super Bowl.
Maybe we'll chip in. I think they will sell out eventually. It's just taking a little bit longer.
Okay, music distribution may have found its bottom. Usher's new song will only be available at Walmart at the bottom of a box of Honey Nut Cheerios. No truth to the rumor that P. Diddy's next album will appear in a packet of oatmeal. What do you think about this one, James Frischling?
I was trying to figure out if this was better or worse than iTunes jamming us with the U2 album, but at least Usher's getting paid. So I expect an apology from Usher for going down this route.
I mean, I don't understand the crossover. So you have to go to Walmart, and then once you get to Walmart, you have to buy Honey Nut Cheerios.
Honey Nut, by the way, not regular, not cinnamon.
Right, and when you hunt to the bottom of the box, you finally get Usher's song. I mean, my kids eat Honey Nut Cheerios. I don't think they know who Usher is. And they definitely haven't been to Walmart because we don't have one in the cities. So what, I mean, does this crossover make sense to you?
I don't know. I think this is maybe encouraging health news because people are realizing that, that the health guidelines the government gave us, we were were supposed to avoid fats and eat a lot of carbs were wrong.
What does that have to do with Usher?
Well, Honey Nut Cheerios, right? It's
delicious.
It's filled with sugar and starch.
Okay.
Maybe it's becoming harder to sell that, so they have to offer this inducement.
Okay. All right, guys, thank you so much.